afternoon. Can you hear me in the back? Woo! All right. I feel so empowered. We are so happy to be back, all of us in person. Give yourself a hand. We will continue to Zoom our meetings for the foreseeable future for those who don't yet feel comfortable coming back or for those who may not be in town during our monthly meetings, but we are so happy to see you all here without a screen around your face. So this is terrific. So I'm Kathleen Guy. I'm president of the club for this year and next, and welcome to you all. I know many of you have been on our Zoom meetings thus far this year, and we've had some terrific speakers, and today it's even going to be terrificer. So we're really happy to have our speaker with us today. So a few announcements. First of all, mark your calendars for August 20th. This was an anomaly today on a Thursday. Typically, we're always Fridays. We'll be back to Friday in August and for the foreseeable future. So mark your calendar for August 20th, when we'll be hearing from Chris McGinnis, co-owner of Crystal Mountain Resort, and John Melcher, who's the chief operating officer there. And they'll be talking to us about running a resort in COVID and post-COVID time. So ought to be a really interesting session for all of us. Membership update, we are continuing to grow as a club despite all of the odds. So we're really happy that we've been adding to our membership over this interim period when we've not been able to be face-to-face. And I would like to take this opportunity to introduce you to a couple of our new members. So, now that you've just taken a bite, Eamon, if you'd like to stand as I introduce you, this is Eamon Smith. He is Managing Director of Real Estate for Geller Capital Partners, or GCP. He is one of the original GCP founding partners, has over 20 years of experience in capitalizing both public and private hotel and real estate projects. He leads the research, acquisition, financing, development, and execution of capital investment and real estate value creation programs. Prior to founding GCP, Eamon was a partner at Salt Creek Hospitality, Osoros Fund Management Investment Platform. And prior to Salt Creek, he was the Director of Acquisitions and Development at the New York Stock Exchange listed public REIT Strategic Hotels and Resorts. And I just learned this morning that he has 2 little people in his life, his children, who are 2 and 4. So welcome, Eamon Smith. And secondly, we have Chuck Meek. Welcome to Chuck. He is the Managing Director of Solve PFAS, L3C, a research and development platform purposely organized to align philanthropy, private capital, academia, and industry. He leads innovative, collaborative R&D projects with a special focus on cutting-edge solutions to the PFAS and algae bloom crises in the Great Lakes watershed and beyond. A former naval officer, he and his wife, Kimberly, also here this morning, please stand, are Michigan natives who are delighted to have recently returned to their roots. So, welcome. Okay, just an update on our essay contest, which has also been continuing behind the scenes. We've had a wonderful batch of essays this year, and I think some 60. Ron Jolly is the chair of the essay contest this year, and we are now in round 3 of our reading. Typically, we take care of it after 2 rounds, but this time we had so many terrific entries, which we're happy to report, that we are in round 3. So readers, remember that round 3 is due tomorrow, right? Okay, I'm one of them. I've got to take care of my homework. But that's been great, and we will be recognizing our recipients of that contest at our August meeting. So you'll not want to miss that. Chris Rogers, would you join me up front, please? Now, while in pandemic mode, we missed the opportunity to recognize Chris Rogers for his leadership over the previous 2 years. So we're really happy to be able to do that today live and in person, because I know you'll want to applaud his service to our club, as do we. So a hand to Chris. Before you go away. We would like to present Chris with this half gavel.
half a year in person.
There we go. There we go. Who also navigated pandemic, and some special notes of appreciation.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much,
yeah.
Chris.
Yeah. Good luck.
Thank you. And with that, I would like to introduce Jeff Guy. Yes, we're related. Who is our programming chair and vice president of the club, to introduce our speaker for today.
So I'm going to read Paul's bio in a second here, but I just have to say one thing about him. I've been communicating with him via email about this event, and this guy is incredible. Like, I send out an email, sometimes 11 o'clock at night. I get a response in like 2 minutes usually. So I mean, sometimes it's maybe 15, 20, but it's always right away. So thanks, Paul. So Paul grew up in Traverse City and was a Traverse City St. Francis grad, class of 1979. After 2 years getting toughened up at West Point, he transferred to University of Detroit School of Architecture, graduating as an apprentice architect in 1985. Less than a year later, he founded Britten Banners in Washington, D.C., and moved the company to Traverse City in 1992. Paul's wife, Darcy, is still married to Paul after 35 years, and they have 7 children and 5 grandkids so far. Paul will share a few stories around the theme authentic entrepreneurism and how our business community can benefit by encouraging and embracing these rare birds. His talk will be 100% authentic, that's for sure, and his stories will make the lawyers, CPAs, and bankers a bit on edge. So we're very excited to have you here, Paul. You're one of the great business leaders of Traverse City. So I'm going to play a short video, and then Paul's going to come up and speak.
Des.
Brands aren't born. They're built on hard work, grit, and determination of people chasing the American dream. Since 1985, we've partnered with companies, communities, and entrepreneurs, helping people raise businesses through the power of brand. We didn't get here by luck. We got here by being different. We got here by saying yes to projects others won't even touch. In a world that turns left, we turn right. When they say, you can't do that, it just lets us know we're on the right track. Life is short, so we move fast. We keep promises. We think bigger, bolder. We're the real deal. From concept to completion, from idea to installation, powered by a team of creative and manufacturing professionals, 300 plus strong and growing. We're a small town company serving the branding needs of businesses across America and the world. We're creating, manufacturing, and delivering the most innovative branding solutions in this industry. We are Britten, the brand building specialists. We build them up for life.
If any of you didn't know or I don't have any idea how much any of you know about Britten, but that 3-minute video says a lot about what we're all about and what we do. Looking back, I just turned 60, and looking back, if I would have known that everything I ever sold, I would have to make, maybe I would have done something else. I could have sold Boeing jets or something like that, and I wouldn't have had to make them myself. But we make things, and we make creative things to help brands grow. And I want to start, I have my notes, and I'm completely going to throw them away here in a minute because I'm already off track. But I do want to start by one quick story. About that last sentence. It said, we build brands, and it said, we build them up for life. And I want you to know that the other day, I was at a seminar, and I saw a speaker there who is a branding expert. He worked, he was a branding guy for the Discovery Channel. He was the branding expert for the city of Miami, many, many things. And I heard him speak, and I was so impressed with him that afterwards I approached him and said, would you consult with me on my brand? And he said, sure, you can come to my studio in Miami and I'll consult, and I charge 25 grand a day. And I said, I was impressed, but I don't know how impressed. But anyway, I thought about it a week, and I thought, my brand is very important, and I'm turning 60, and I've saved a little bit of money. And so, by golly, I'm going to give this guy a chance. 25 grand. So I fly to Miami. I'm sitting in his little studio, and next thing you know, he's asking me questions. Tell me about the business. Tell me about this. We're having here, have a cup of coffee. I bought you a bagel. Next thing you know, it's noon, and I'm thinking I'm 12 grand in, and I haven't got, what the heck? Where is this going? What's happening here? And then we get to 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and he's still just peppering me with questions. But then he asked this question. He said, what's a chip? Tell me about a chip on your shoulder. You got any chips on your shoulder? I want to hear about it. And I said, I do have a chip on my shoulder that I've had for a long time. He said, what is it? And I said, well, I'm an artist. I'm a commercial artist. And I said, but my brothers, I had a brother that was a football player, another brother that was a musician, and and a big family. And whenever my mother would have guests over, the conversation would start about Charlie and how he caught the touchdown pass. And John then would get up there with his guitar, and he'd start playing and entertain him for 20 minutes. And I'm a little 10-year-old boy, and it was my turn, right? And all I would have is something I just made, right? Like, look what I made. Maybe it was a little piece of pottery I made, or maybe it was some matchsticks that I glued together and made a little car. But I'd walk around the room and I'd say, well, look what I made. And I'd be out looking for a little love. And I said, but my brothers always, they would look at me like, Paul, he's the artist. Come on, he's an artist. So I said, that's my chip. And this guy says, well, what did your mother do? How would your mother react when you did that? And I said, well, my mother, oh yeah, that's very clear. I said, my brothers really couldn't say a negative thing about me and anything I was showing. you know, they really couldn't ridicule me much because my mother was always standing right behind me, looking over my shoulder into their eyes, saying, doing this. They knew what she meant when she did this. It meant they better be building me up, because if they weren't building me up, she was going to rip their arm off, right? And that, when I told this guy that, this international branding expert, the conversation stopped, and he said, as my speech said, the brand that you are and you live is within you. That was the essence. And my job is to simply help you find it. And you've just told me your brand. Nike's brand, Just Do It, is no stronger than Britten's brand, Build Them Up. He said, your company is a tribute to your mother. You should be tremendously proud of what you've built. And I am tremendously proud of where we are today. I just turned 60 a couple weeks ago, and I'm tremendously proud that we employed 300 people in Traverse City before the pandemic. We're down to about 220 right now. We have 28 job postings on our website, and we're looking for great, wonderful, creative people. And it's hard to find them. But I'm tremendously proud of the economic impact that this little engine has had on this community. And so with that, let me see if I know how to work this. How do I do this? Just one button? Just push the button? One thing I don't know how to do. Okay, so that picture, they asked me for a mug shot the other day. I said, I got a mug shot for you. They just took this 2 days ago. It was me with a chainsaw. I had just got done sculpting foam for the Bengals tunnel. The Cincinnati Bengals needed a new tunnel that the players are going to run through onto the field. And our company has a full sculpting division, but they needed me to get out there and help get some of the rough work done. So I had just put on my shirt and I went out there and I picked up a chainsaw at Home Depot and I said, I'll show you how to do it. I saw a couple of my employees in there struggling with some little hand tools, and I went and got a chainsaw and came in. I said, get out of my way. I'll show you how that's done. So anyway, that's what that picture came from. That's our 3D model, and we're actually in the process of building these right now. Super fun. Okay, so here's the scene. Here was the scene. It's 1984. That's the year that the Detroit Tigers went to the World Series for the first time in a very long time, and the last time, unfortunately. They've been there ever since. But it was 1984. I was a student at University of Detroit Architecture School, a senior in my dorm room with a couple rolls of paper and some poster paint that I had a side hustle hand painting banners for fraternities and sorority parties that you probably saw. Rush, free beer, 7 p.m., this house or that house. You probably saw them because they were at lots of different universities. But anyway, I had this paper and tape, and I was working on my architecture project with my JBL speakers playing Wheels Radio, WLLZ in Detroit. Anybody from Detroit around here originally? All right, so Wheels Radio, they're still around. So they came on and Wheels said, the DJ said, we're having a banner competition. The best banner, whoever paints the best banner for the Tigers gets box seats to the World Series, $500 cash, and limo series to and from the game. Limo service to and from the game. Well, I'm sitting there drawing and I froze and I listened and I said, what did they just say? I listened to that again and I said, I'm going to paint to win. So I took paper, 3-foot rolls of paper, rolled them out on the floor of the dormitory and taped them together because I sincerely believed I had to be at least the size of a legal billboard, which was 14 by 48 feet, because I was positive I was going to be competing against the billboard muralists from Gannett Outdoor, who were right there headquartered in Detroit. I was sure that I was going to be up against the very best. I spent 24 hours and a couple 12 packs of beer painting that banner, and it was a masterpiece. I carried it down. We duct taped it to the side of a room, the side of a liquor store down by the stadium, and we waited for the competition. It showed up 10 minutes before the voting. One bum with a bedsheet who had sprayed, "Go Tigers." I won the competition. We were thinking bigger. We were thinking bigger than normal. We were thinking bigger. But then I went back to my dorm room in that very afternoon. Two drunk buddies of mine, Paul Sinelli and John Ryan, two friends that lived in the dorm, they were there with me, kind of helping me with it. And they said, "That was so awesome. You know that paper and tape? The way we did that, it was kind of like ripstop nylon. We took paper and we taped it, but then we made a grid on the back of that shipping tape. You can't tear that stuff. That's infinite. We could be any size, any scale." They said, and one of them said, we ought to do one of those for General Motors. And then they left. And many people do that, don't they? We ought to do that, or we should do that, or we could do that. Well, they left and I couldn't sleep. And so that night, I literally got up and I took a picture of General Motors building and I did a little architectural mock-up of the front of it. And I made a mock-up of what a banner might look like. And the banner had the Tiger logo and the GM logo, and it said 2 number 1 teams. Maybe that was a little smart, I don't know. But anyway, the next morning, I put on my 3-piece suit. This is in 1984. I put on my 3-piece suit, and I had a photograph of one banner, the banner I had done for WLLZ before, and a couple of sorority and fraternity banners. And I called GM main switchboard and asked for a meeting with anybody at all at GM. Anybody. Is there anybody I could meet with? Like anybody in public relations, anybody in advertising? And I'll never forget, his name was Jim Krellen, was in public relations, agreed to see me the next morning at 8 o'clock for 5 minutes. So I walked in the door in my 3-piece suit. I showed him a picture of the banner I had just won. I showed him a little mock-up of what that banner could be. And he looked at it. He didn't say a word. He got on his phone, he called somebody else. He called somebody else. They started discussing a little bit. They asked a few technical questions. They asked a few more things. And pretty soon in walked John McNulty, who I didn't know who that was, but McNulty was the vice president of advertising for General Motor Mark of Excellence program worldwide. He came walking in the conference room and he said, "You're that kid from UD?" And he looked at it and he said, "I love it. Let's go show the boss." We walked down the hallway to Roger Smith's office. He opened the door. I walked in. He said, "Show him what you got, kid." I said, "Okay." So I put this little mock-up right on his desk. I tried not to spill his coffee. But I put it on his desk. I flipped this little image of a banner on front of it, and I said, "Mr. Smith, if you're a Tiger fan, I thought you might want to hang this on your world headquarters to capture Tiger fever." And Smith said, "Can you get it done in 3 days? The game's in 3 days." I said, "Yes, I can get it done in 3 days." "Is it going to tear?" And I had a little sample. I said, "Can you try to tear it, sir?" Shipping tape, you can't tear it. And he said, "I love it, let's do it." Then he said, "How much is it?" And I said, $5,000, which I'd never said more than $5 in my life. I said, $5,000. And he said, "Oh, great." And then he looked to somebody behind me and said, "I don't care whose budget you take it out of, let's do this." It became one of the biggest events in U of D history. They sent, every TV station in Michigan showed up. Every newspaper was there. It ended up being on the front page of every paper in the state. And anyway, whatever. Okay, so anyway, that was that. I had tasted blood. I was going to be, maybe, I kind of liked the idea of banners. However, the dean of my architecture school, Bruno Leon, a wonderful, wonderful friend of mine, He disagreed. He said, you're not a banner maker, you're an architect. That's enough of that. Put that away, get to work, you're an architect. I graduated that May. I went out to Washington, D.C. I got a job as an architect. I was making $9 an hour as a draftsman. I started moonlighting, making little banners, and pretty soon I was making a lot more money in my apartment at night than I was during my day job. So I stopped and I began a banner company in 1986, the very beginning of 1986 in DC. Now I knew absolutely nothing about business, nothing. My mother was a 4th grade school teacher here in the Catholic schools. My father was a vocational rehabilitation counselor helping handicapped people find work. They had 0 business experience, and I had no business experience. So, but I was in business, and I had a lot of energy, but I really had no clue what I was doing. So the first lesson I had learned, and it's a core value of Britten today, was that I was thinking bigger, right, than the average kid. I don't know why, I don't know how, but I was thinking bigger. The second lesson I had to learn was how to trust people, or who to trust. And so without getting in, I don't have time, but maybe someday this one would put a little chill down your spine, but it's a fact that one of my earliest customers was a guy who decorated parties for a living in Washington, D.C. And he would say to me, I became his favorite pony, and he would say, hey, Paul, I want you to turn the Willard Ballroom into the Wild West for a Western party this weekend. And boy, I was creative and I was on it, all hand painted. There wasn't any computers in 1985. But I could whip up those designs and I could do that. And then he would say, hey, next weekend I got a Hawaiian luau in the same room. Let's make it look like Hawaii. And 2 weeks later, it's Star Wars in that room. And the guy was so amazing and so rich, and he would pay me in cash. Lots of cash, thousands of dollars of cash. And I said, this guy is the best customer in the world. I loved him. I absolutely loved him. He said he wanted to be my partner. I said, of course. I mean, I'm a new business guy. I'm so flattered. I want a partner, right? I've been in business 6 months. Now this guy who's loaded for bear wants to be my partner. And I said, of course I'd like you to be my partner. He said, I'm going to make you, he promised me I was going to make so much money, and I was so pumped. And then he hired, as soon as I let him be my partner, he hired 4 additional people immediately. We need those people. Paul, you do your thing. You design. I'll take care of all of this administrative stuff. Of course, the one thing that I'm a nightmare was in anything relative to accounting, anything relative to organization, anything relative to administration. Right? And he promised, I'll take care of all that. So he did. 3 months later, one guy, one employee who was a fellow sign painter, I had just hired myself. One guy, he was a bartender, so he's kind of street smart. I went to him and I said, hey, you're a sign painter. I'm so far behind. I need help. He came in, he worked for 1 week. He came in after 1 week, he slammed the door and he said to me, remember, I'm from Traverse City. He said to me, what the hell's the matter with you? And I said, what? And he said, this guy, John Cummings, this guy, he runs your whole administration, right? He's your partner, right? He's in charge of all the money and everything, right? I said, oh yeah, he takes care of all that. And he goes, he just offered to pay me in cocaine. I was in business with a drug dealer, yes. I hope that put just a little shiver down your spine, because it sure put a big one down mine. So yes, I was in business with a cocaine dealer. And then I went to my lawyer, because I had a lawyer. I'd never had a lawyer, but I needed a lawyer, so I called my lawyer, the one that had written the partnership deal with the cocaine dealer for me. And I said, oh my God, I can't breathe, number 1. I have a baby at home, number 2. I'm broke, number 3. I think that he hasn't paid a single bill in 6 months. And by the way, I owe the IRS, and I'd gone from about 50 grand to the positive to about 200 grand into the red. And I'm standing here, and I'm from Traverse City, and I have no clue what I'm doing. And my lawyer said, "I'm out." That's what he said, "I'm out." And he walked out the door. I want nothing to do with it. I had no idea. I have no idea. I want nothing to do with this guy. He'd been up the river. The guy had been in prison. And he found me, and I believed, and so I didn't know how to trust. And then I learned. Then I decided I'm never going to trust anybody. That's how I decided. Anyway, I know I'm probably going too long, but let me just keep going. So, one other guy, no, but this is the important story, but then something miraculous happened. 2 divine interventions. I'm a big believer in divine intervention. I'm looking at my friend Mike over there. I know he's a believer in divine. 2 things happened. One thing was that a banker in Northern Virginia, right outside of D.C., a banker saw me, came in my shop one night at 11 o'clock because I worked during the day answering the phone, and at night I had to make it all. I had to paint. And so I was working around the clock. A banker stopped at my office at 11 o'clock one night, walked in the door, and said, "I see you in here. I see your truck out here every night. What do you do?" And I told him a little bit about it. Told him I was flat-ass broke, but I was doing my best to make some money, make a go of it. And he said, "Come and see me tomorrow." Out of the blue, "Come and see me." So I went to the bank. There was a 1-branch bank. I walk in the door, and I sit down with the guy, and he asks me where I'm from, and I said, "Traverse City, Michigan." And he said, "You're kidding me, right?" And I said, "No." And he said, "I used to own a business in Traverse City called Scuba North. My name's Doug Buskers, and I'm the branch manager at this bank. And let me see your financial statements." I don't have any financial statements. I have no idea what you're even talking about. He said, "Okay, I'm going to give you a $5,000 letter of credit, but what I really needed, and what he really did give me, is the ability to walk in every day, and look at how many checks might be bouncing that day, and help the teller decide which ones to return and which ones not to return, so that I would make sure I never got them returned twice." That's a true story. But anyway, more importantly though, even more importantly is this. Another guy, that's the first divine intervention. How did a guy in Traverse City meet a guy from Traverse City that happened to be a banker that happened to find me? That's a divine intervention, there's no question. And secondly, another guy my wife worked with was a gentleman, an older gentleman. At the time I was 25, he was 75. His name was Mervyn Lewis. He was a Jewish man. He and his wife owned a small little company, a big company called Take-A-Toy, which are the little cheesy toys you find in every grocery store. If you go to there's always one little section of a grocery store where there's a little cheesy toys. That was Take-A-Toy, and they were in every grocery store in America. And Mervyn Lewis, I was desperate. I went into him and I said, "Mervyn, what should I do? I've been cheated by a drug dealer. He's threatening me. I have all these other problems. I have a baby at home. I'm broke. What do I do?" And I just talked to him. I didn't ask him what do I do. I just said I just was desperate. And when I left, here's what he did. I didn't ask him for anything, but as I left, he took his business card. He wrote the name of his lawyer on the business card. He said, "You can trust my lawyer. Do exactly what my lawyer tells you to do." Then he handed me a check for $10,000 that I didn't ask for. He wrote a check for $10,000 and he gave it to me. And then he said this. He said, kid, talk to my lawyer. Do what he tells you to do. Don't worry about paying me back that money. But cut me in on a few shares right before you go public. And I'm going to tell you right now, entrepreneurs need to learn to trust people. He restored my faith in humanity. He restored my faith in humanity, and I knew there was somebody out there that believed in me deeper than I ever would have dreamed. And Mervyn Lewis passed away of a heart attack some 10 years ago, but I kept in touch. He became a wonderful friend, and I did pay him back. But still. So anyway, I'm way off track. I'm way off track. Anyway, am I totally out of time yet? Huh? I'm fine? Okay, I'm fine. I want to make sure. Okay, so these are the stories, right, that make a brand. These are the true, authentic stories of entrepreneurship that make a brand. I didn't know what I was doing, but now suddenly I had somebody that believed in me. I came to Traverse City, and I happened to find another guy that I do still believe is the same. The people, they hand me these cards, and I'm not afraid to say, I'll look under every rock. Somebody handed me the card of a CPA and said, who's your CPA? Well, I had Plant and Moran, and I had all these different, a lot of different names of different companies, you know, over the past, but I didn't really know anything about any accounting. I didn't care about it. I just wanted to win. I just wanted to be successful. I didn't know really. And he handed me this card. I took the card, and I called this guy named Jim Bowders, who is a CPA. He's a CPA and advisor, and he's out of, right now, his firm's been purchased, or the firm he was with, but now he's with UHY Advisors in Southfield. But Jim came up, and here's my transaction with Jim. And this is what I tell you every entrepreneur needs. First, let me tell you what we don't need. What we don't need is lawyers and CPAs. I don't know if any of you might be those, but lawyers and CPAs that have those damn minute counters or second counters or software that counts how many. I don't see how it jives when they say, I care so much about you. I really want to help you. Oh, by the way, just one second. Let me turn on that little clicker. I got an invoice the other day from a guy, and he said, I got an invoice from an attorney the other day, and there were 5 minutes charged to write the invoice. Typing the invoice. And I'm like, I wish I could charge an extra 5 minutes of invoice for ever the invoices I send to my customers. But anyway, so that's what we don't need. But what I did need is somebody that believed in me and that I could trust. That's all I needed. And I met this guy, and he looked at me, and he listened to me, and I told him, here's what I said. I just moved to Traverse City now. I just moved to Traverse City. 5 years have gone by. I had this whole huge story, but I passed it. I'm debt free. I have 50 grand or 60 or 100 grand maybe left in the bank. I have a contract with a company called IMG, Mark McCormick, the golf guy, right? I had a contract with IMG Motorsports when I moved to Traverse City that would allow me to do the signage for the Detroit Grand Prix and the Cleveland Grand Prix and others. So I had business, I had value, I had 7 years of school of hard knocks, and I was standing here, and I told this to Jim. And Jim, literally, we were sitting at Randy's Diner. He literally came unglued after about 30 minutes of listening to me, and he grabbed me by the collar, and he shook me, and he said, let me tell you what you are. And I said, he goes, let me tell you something. I said, what? He said, you're an entrepreneur. And I said, I'm a what? You're an entrepreneur. And he said, and you're a damn good one, because very few are able to survive 7 years in business with no blood in your veins. One thing that I had never done for the first 7 years is borrow a dime. I didn't have any credit. I had no money, I had no credit, I had no way to borrow. I just had to make banners and sell them and get paid. Getting paid was harder than I always thought it would be. But making banners, make them good, and selling them. Okay? My pictures, I'm just talking, I got to show you. I have all these pretty pictures to show you too. Anyway, I'm on picture 2. I don't know how this, I mean, can you do it? Advance the pictures? Anyway, okay. Last, I'll end with, I mean, I don't have any idea where I am on time, but let me just tell you one last quick important story. After I had that in place, I had an accountant that believed in me. I had a place to live. I had Traverse City was home for me. Ambrose Schaub sold me his land, his little Florida car building on a handshake for $100,000, owner finance with 10 grand down. He said, I'll owner finance it. That was the kind of work that I loved, right? And so from there, we began building a business. Jim believed our sales doubled year after year after year after year. We grew like a rocket ship. Even though I had let down I had some issues, other stories that I would tell with more time, but we ended up being a partner with Marlboro USA Racing, who led us, and by 1997, we were producing 17 or 13 of the 17 Grand Prix races in the United States, all of their signage. From there, we transferred into NASCAR. We were doing all of the signage at the NASCAR tracks, most of them across the United States. From there, we moved into doing specialty projects like this. This project right here is actually what you're looking at. That's the Plaza Hotel in New York City on 59th and 5th Avenue, but that's not the hotel. That's my drawing of the hotel. The hotel is 6 feet back behind the scaffolding. So we produced the banner. That's a 257-foot banner by 300 feet wide with wrap that wraps the Plaza Hotel in New York City. So can you click again for me, or somebody click the clicker? Okay, so here's just a few more projects, okay? Here's where we are today, and I'm just going to end on a random note here. This is the Denver Broncos tunnel. The NFL has found us, and we've expanded from banners into other creative services. This is the tunnel that the players run on through the field for the Denver Broncos. And it's a Da Vinci thing because it has to completely fold down and sneak inside a tunnel and go out of the tunnel and open up and let the players run through and be off the field in less than 5 minutes. So I was pretty proud of that piece. It wasn't quite as user-friendly as they wished it was, but too bad for them. I loved it. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, another new thing we're doing now, we've expanded and diversified into a full range of creative services, creative production services. We've taken shipping containers and modifying them. We have a new division called Box Pop, BOXPOP. I'd love you to encourage you to see that website, BOXPOP.com. My son-in-law, Matt Egan, is a civil engineer that runs that. He's joined us here today. He's running that division for us, but it's a fast-growing part. We're shipping bars to the Bahamas, and we just got kitchens to Maui, and we're shipping stuff all over the world. We did a full club in Belize, and it's just really exciting. A real global vision and a lot of exciting stuff. Again, everything happens. These are the kinds of crazy things that very few companies would touch. This is Delta at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta having a giant soccer day, and we produce this giant sculptural piece for their major press event there. This just got done 2 weeks ago. I personally was on the 17th floor. I want you to know I look like that photo. I was all dressed up. I had my work clothes on and my safety harnesses. And I was up there with my crew installing those two banners. Those two banners are both 175 feet high, and this one is 105 and this one is 80. But that's going to change now. That's on the City Hall in downtown Richmond, Virginia. So we do giant, and we're one of the few companies in the country that have the guts to take on projects like this. But that's that's a solid $100,000 project right there. We also have done some acquisitions. We purchased we've purchased the iWood Design Group. They were a woodworking company in Interlaken. We've purchased the Northern Stamping Company over here, and now it becomes Britten Metalworks. But one of the things we're doing is bringing in the vertically integrating with some additional competencies like woodworking and metalworking. And we found a new vein of gold, maybe, in the world of cannabis dispensaries. We just finished this is for the rare dispensaries. We're doing 16 dispensaries for them around the country. Thank you very much. Okay,
Okay, pocket or something.
almost done. There you go. That's it. Just leave it. Let it hang. Leave my tail. I'll have a little tail there for a while. I don't care. Anyway, and then lastly, for all you rock and roll stars, it's one of my favorite. This is all happening right here in Traverse City, under your nose, right out on Cass Road. We had a call a couple years ago from right before COVID from a producer for Aerosmith, the rock and roll legend. They're doing they are on stage in Vegas. Has anybody seen their show in Vegas? At the MGM, they're live at the MGM. I thought you were in the band, aren't you? Anyway, we produce the wings behind the Aerosmith stage. Those are 80-foot across, 40-foot high, sculpted foam wings that back up the Aerosmith band, and they're projecting with the colors. They're actually just light gray, but they use projection and lighting to light those up, and they make them, turn them on fire and do all sorts of amazing things with them. That is, I think, the last photograph. So that's it. That's the story of Britten. I wanted with more time. I lost track and I started with stories that were off my script. But I really do want to just end with thanking the community for all the support that they've given us, because we certainly have received from the EDC. Charles Blankenship, remember him from years ago, was wonderfully helpful. The community, the Garfield Township Group, and helping us, remove barricades for entrepreneurs to grow, right? I want banks to listen and say, I wish banks would just understand that formulas and covenants really mean nothing. I don't know what they mean. All I know is don't miss a payment. And I've never missed one. I've never missed a payroll, and I've never missed a payment in 35 years, but they make life miserable with all these things, and then they're coming, oh, you tripped a formula. I have no idea what that means. I didn't miss any payment. I have no idea what that means, and I don't really care, right? I just want to continue to grow my business and do my thing, and you need to understand that ADHD guys like me that are really out there pushing to drive and we really don't have time for all that administrative stuff, okay? We just want to do what we want to do, okay? And the lawyers and the accountants, please turn off those minute things, or at least don't ever show them to anybody. Don't show them. Just tell the people, listen, I'm going to charge you the fair amount, right? I'm going to charge you what's fair. And what if they say, well, I don't trust you, right? How do I know you're going to charge me what's fair? Already. It's, the last thing I'll end on. It's a good last ending. I had a couple of employees recently that left Britten. Very rare. We have a very, very low turnover. But I had a couple of employees that left Britten during COVID because you could work from home, right? So we had competitors around the country that know that we're one of the biggest production shops like this in the United States. And they knew us, and so they started calling and talking to my salespeople. Right? That paying what you should be making, whatever. And they started recruiting my salespeople away, right? So I lost 3 good salespeople, and I was so disappointed in them, so disappointed that they would leave when they started working at Britten, they didn't even know what a banner was, okay? They learned anything and everything they ever know about a banner from Britten, and now they're going to work for a banner company that's based in Minnesota, but they can do it from here. They can work home from Traverse City and work for that company in Minnesota, right? So I was so disappointed. But then people said, well, Paul, why don't you have covenants not to compete? You should have covenants not to compete. And I said, you know what? Do you have a prenup with your wife? Isn't a covenant not to compete a prenup? It's, I know you're going to rip me off someday, so I want you to sign this. No, I don't believe in it. It's not what we're about, right? That's what authentic entrepreneurism should be. We're trusting people. They join us. We want them to work for us. We trust. All I trust is that if they ever leave, they let me help them find something wonderful in a different industry. They don't try to take my customers. That's all I'm asking, right? But these three guys decided they're going to go do it. And I said, fine, go ahead. But no, I'm not going to go write covenants not to compete on all my people. Why would I do that? I want to end on a better note than that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your time. Thank you for this. I love it. I love a chance to be able to share our story. I'm very proud of what we've done. We have made a big economic impact. And the good thing about Britten, we don't sell anything really in Traverse City. All of the money that we sell comes from all over the place. And our goal is to have it come from all over the world. And that's starting to happen. We're starting to see some wonderful international business. We have actually this afternoon 2 guests arriving from Qatar who are Canadians, but they live in Qatar, and they have won the World Cup soccer in Qatar, and they're coming to visit Britain because they might need a partner to execute on that. So that's the kind of things that we're excited about. Thank you again. It's an honor to be here. Thank you. Completely lost track of time. If there's questions, I'd love to answer any that you might have. Yes, please. That was just a couple years ago that I did that one. It was, yes, and it was worth it. I absolutely think that our brand is a true brand now. I feel very authentic in our brand, yes. That's a great question. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I really don't know. It's puzzling. They're certainly puzzling. We do think, you know, I don't know. A lot of the jobs that we're offering are far more than, you know, there are many different jobs at all different levels throughout the company. But I just looked this morning, we have 28 openings, and I'm not sure why we're not filling them as fast as we'd like to. I wish I had an answer, but I don't know. That's an honest answer. Any other questions I could answer? Yes, sir. He's passed away. He's passed away. I do think that I've got 7 children. I have 7 children. I have 5 grandkids so far. I have 4 children actively involved in the business today, including my high school son, who's a senior, but he's over there. He better be sweating right now. We'll see. But so I don't know. I think it's interesting how as you create value and the business becomes more and more successful, the incentive to sell it becomes less and less and less. And I remember asking my friend Jim Bowders, you know, my advisor, when we were a $10 million company, like, hey, should we sell the company? And I was 35 or 36, and he said, what are you talking about? We're not selling the company. That's ridiculous. Like, don't even mention that. Just get back to work. You know, we have a lot of work to do. And then pretty soon, after a while, there was really no incentive to sell. The business was fine, and we're making money, and things were good, and life's going on. So I don't think that I'm going to be going public anytime soon. But anyway, thank you, though. It's kind of fun to think about once in a while, but I don't know. Any other questions? All right, thank you again very much.
do you think? He has 2 speeds, full and off. What a great, inspiring, energizing conversation he has had with us today. So thanks again, Paul, for being with us and helping us reopen the Economic Hub of Traverse City for the season. Our takeaways are think bigger, learn who you can trust, and pardon me? Pray hard, work hard, and pardon me? Find a drug dealer. And we can't wait to read your book. So thank you all for being here today, for trusting us to make it safe for you to be here. We appreciate your in-person attendance. Hope you'll come back again. Remember, August 20th, right here. It's a Friday. Thursday, August 26th. Oh, gee, after I've told you that now. It's Thursday, August 26th, not August 20th. So one more Thursday, right? Okay, thank you. Program committee is keeping me honest here. Thursday, August 26th, Crystal Mountain will be our speaker and our topic, Chris McGinnis. So we'll see you all then. Thanks again, Paul, and thank you all for being here. We are adjourned.